What's going on, Bird Gang? This is Darren Sproles here. I just want to thank y'all for tuning in to Eagles Brawl of the Brawl Network. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star rating. Fly Eagles Fly.
Thank you for tuning in to Eagles Brawl of the Brawl Network. However you are listening, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, or however you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. We have a special guest joining my co-host Tyler Steege and I. That is Thomas R. Petersen at Thomas RP93 of Philly Sports Network. Thomas, thanks for joining the show, my man. I'm excited to discuss these topics with you today.
Hey, what's up, man? Excited to finally join the Eagles Brawl. First time I listened to you wasn't it your second episode when you were interviewing Julian Vanderbilt?
Yes, sir. That was the second episode.
Right. I was casually riding to work thinking like I'm going to listen to some podcasts because I was running out of all the regular Eagles podcasts that I was listening to. And I hit this up when you started recording all these and it's like, damn, Conor's doing a good job over here. And I just kept listening to it on the regular. And the last episode you did with Tyler was super fun to listen to. When I was reading on Twitter that he was going off about Zach Ertz and think, all right, here it comes. And then seeing him vape off about Zach Ertz and last episode, that was fun. And then you texted me, it's like, damn, yeah, I got to get on the show.
Yeah,
Of course, man, but well, go ahead, Tyler.
We gotta get some fake crowd noise because we're gonna have these big time guests coming in. So every time you introduce them,
I like that. We need that.
Yeah,
I'll definitely look into adding that sound effect. But Thomas, way to humble yourself real quick because it's not like you're like the most trending Eagles film watcher on Twitter right now or anything. But your film reviews are great because even if we disagree with you, at least you back it up with really solid facts and you explain why. And even Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks had to give you that shout out for your TJ Edwards film review, especially with like most people on fans don't think much of TJ Edwards, and you killed that film review.
Man, I've been living on the TJ Edwards hill, so this is a real important season for me. If I might have to die on the hill, but I mean everything I've seen, you've seen it, so. Yeah, I'm really excited about him. And to the whole NFL Network thing. I mean, they asked fans to post it. I posted it. And they took it. I mean, they didn't pick me out, but I mean, I'll take it. That was a really fun experience to see my face there on NFL Network. I mean, that was a fun experience.
Dude, that is awesome. We can only imagine, man. We can only imagine. That is awesome. But it's time to get into the show. We have some great topics to run over with you, Thomas, real quick. So, at first, we just need to get into the offensive line because I think that's a huge question. I think people are debating if Peters plays guard this year, right guard this year, the whole entire year, if he puts the pressure on Andre Dillard. Me, personally, I think it definitely shortens Andre Dillard's leash. We saw how quickly the Eagles pulled him out at being right tackle as soon as he showed signs of failure. I don't think his leash is going to be extremely long. I think this pandemic hurts him also. And I'm also in the point where I'm thinking, no matter what happens this year, you have 3 years left on Andre Dillard's contract. That's plenty of time for him to prove himself to you. And if you can't work something out, there's also the franchise tag. So that's 4 years of potential contract control past this season. I'm in no rush to put Andre Dillard out there. There's a lot of, I think, nuances of his game needs to work on. I know he probably did strengthen up this offseason, but when you don't really get a feel for the guys in the building and they're missing all these valuable reps, and now that the potential of him not even having a preseason to even like get a feel for that job. I know he played there last year filling in for Peters, but how he played last year going into this year as a starter week one, it doesn't sit right with me completely. I think they brought Jason Peters back to potentially play at right guard, but to alleviate the stress and the pressure on Andre Dillard if they have to go ahead and pull him and put Jason Peters back at left tackle, where I think Jason Peters is best at anyways, because I think once you bring him back into the building, he automatically is your best left tackle on your team, and you have to do the offensive line the justice of playing him there. Thomas, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. Do you believe that Jason Petersen can play right guard, and do you believe in Andre Dillard starting the whole entire season this year?
I think you're bringing up some key points in it. So the way I look at Jason Peters coming back is an organizational decision to have as many answers as possible to the questions they might be presented to next season. So you hit it on yourself that there's not going to be a preseason, basically, and they're not gonna have a lot of time to get new guys into new systems. So the other options that they were looking at would be to bring someone else in. And the top names that were mentioned in regards to that would demand top money. And looking at the way the cap situation is looking right now, and even with the last NFLPA agreement that was set up, the cap is going to go down next season. So that's not an intriguing option. Then you're looking at Matt Pryor, who played really well in the games that he did play in last season. So that was it was a good option. But looking behind him, you didn't really have guys that you thought, all right, these guys can really step. I mean, one of the top guys would be Jack Driscoll, who was a rookie. So you don't know what you're getting there. Mailata, can he play guard? I mean, those questions are really not great. So Jason Peters, they know what a freak athlete he is and how well he knows the entire system, been playing in it for a long time. So could he potentially play right guard well? I think so. They obviously think so. But I guess I understand why the questions would be whether he would do it well. Now I heard Russ Tucker, who played football before. He's the Eagles preseason TV analyst. He was interviewed about this, and he was asked a question, and I think he put it well. He played with the Bills when Jason Peters went from tight end to left tackle. And he said within 15 seconds, he became one of the best left tackles that he had ever seen play. So he was in no doubt that he was going to be able to transition to right guard immediately and do it well. The other point that he brought up that I found really well is that the two major questions the Eagles had heading into the season is who is going to be the right guard, or who is going to back up right guard for Matt Pryor if he was going to suddenly ball out and be a stud, and who would be the backup to Andre Dillard now that Big V is gone. Because, Andre Dillard might flop. Do I think he'll flop? No. I think the primarily issue with him was strength and mass, and it certainly sounds like he corrected that a lot this offseason. So there's going to be a transition phase for him, of course. But if he fails, then they have a situation where they can put Jason Petersen there. Is that bad for Dillard? Sure, but it's good for the organization because then they're not going to be left with a big gap at the left tackle position. And when everything's said and done, what it comes down to for Howie Roseman and for Doug Peterson essentially is winning football games. And I don't care if Andre Dillard's feelings get hurt. If he plays bad, they're going to put the guy in there who can win games. So if you put Jason Petersen there, you still have Matt Pryor to play right guard. Say Jason Peters is suddenly a stud right guard, perfect. Then you only have one question. That's Andre Dillard. Say Andre Dillard plays bad, you put Jason Peters at left tackle, you still only have one question, and that is the right guard situation then. So I think it was a great move. It was a cheap move, and I see a lot of potential with it.
Yeah, you hit on that perfectly because that's what I was saying. Bringing Jay, I was since episode I want to say 3. I've been advocating bringing Jason Peters back because you need to. Well, even after the Brooks injury actually got announced, you need to lessen the blow on the offensive line. You can't have two major vital pieces missing because everybody forgets Jason Peters played at a top 7 left tackle level last year. It wasn't like he was bad. He was very great in pass protection, and obviously he's great in run. A lot of people kill him for the false starts. He obviously lost a step, and I mean, just as well as I do, the edge rushers nowadays are very speed technician type guys, very technical, savvy.
They were bad timing. Sorry to cut you off, Conor, but I get kind of ticked off a bit about the false start. They were untimely false starts, but let's not act like he exploded off the records with false starts. Like it wasn't that bad of a problem. He just killed a few drives on it, so it was untimely. Sorry about
right. And I mean, no, that's fine. And then to analyze that from your perspective and probably from my perspective is he lost a step, so that's him gaining his extra step in pass sets. And you're right, it's off timing. Sometimes he's off with it. As long as he keeps Wentz upright, I'm completely fine with that, and that's what he does. You're right. You go ahead, Tyler.
The biggest issue for me with Peters is how he'll do in the run game as a guard. I think he'll be fine in pass protection, but can he actually create push? And that's the biggest question mark that I have.
Well, that's what I was going to lead into is that if he's having all these false starts at left tackle because he needs the extra step, how does he handle smaller agile interior
Right.
linemen, like the Geno Atkins of the world, like the Aaron Donalds of the world. That's where I'm like,
But to rebuttal that, he'll no longer be on an island. He's got somebody.
oh
on
yeah,
his
he's
right,
between Kelsey and
yeah.
Lane. Yeah, exactly.
So
So it's not like there's no way Jason Peters can play bad at right guard. I'm not saying that because Jason Peters is a great player. To me, I just don't think Andre Dillard is going to be ready. I think he's a fine player. I think Andre Dillard will work out.
Dillard, I mean, there should be skepticism for sure, but I mean, I think he for as much red flags that I think there were more red flags off the field than there were on the field. I don't. It's not as if he stepped in and he just like looked.
His pass protection was rough last year. I would say he handled himself
though, right? I mean, you expect that.
Yeah, right. He's a rookie, and especially coming from the Pac-12. Because rarely are you handling very serious pass rushing talent in the Pac-12. So I agree, but.
When you think back on it, Conor, the two games where he struggled the most, being thrown into the Vikings game against Everson Griffin, and then the game against Robert Quinn against the Cowboys, where he gave up a sack as well.
Both those guys.
Those are pretty good guys.
Yeah,
and right, those are great players. I thought Jerry Hughes kind of beat him like a drum too in Buffalo, but my thing is, you're right. Those are two guys. It's not like it's going to get any easier though. Like that's not going anywhere. And then you have Wentz and his durability issues. I don't want my quarterback to get hit that much.
Well, we said that the lack of preseason is going to affect it. I mean, as long as he's getting to training camp and he's going into training camp as a starter, that's the biggest thing. As long as he's getting a starting rep.
No matter what we're debating here, that's what's happening. Like that's the role right now is.
And I think we'll know by the start of the season if he's struggling in training camp, then we'll probably see Peter slide. If you start to hear reports,
no. If he struggles in training camp, it's not going to happen. Dillard's not starting week 1. It's Peters. If he struggles in training camp, if he struggles in training camp, they're not going to go that way. But before we end this segue into the other segment, I believe in Andre Dillard. That he has the talent. I thought he was going to go 10th overall to the Bengals in that draft.
That's not what you said. You've given up on him already.
No. He needs to. He just needs to have the strength. And like Thomas said, there's evidence that he's done so, that the people talked about that he's done so. I hope he has.
I think the one underrated thing about Jason Peters bringing it back, I see the trend of all Philly media about it is that it's going to create a problem. But I look back on every quote that Andre Dillard had about Jason Peters, and every one of them were supportive. Now, of course, he's not going to go out and say Jason Peters is a big old dummy and I'm going to take his job. Now, everything he said was that he was a great mentor for him. He learned a lot from him, and they were working closely together in training camp. So I'm not so sure that the presence of Jason Peters is a bad thing for Andre Dillard first season. When he's going to go into training camp as a full-time starter, I don't see why he can't contribute from his presence as well.
You have a Hall of Famer in your shadow. I mean, my thing is Andre Dillard has called out the coaching staff already. He's called out his college head coach. He got in a fight in training camp with Derek Barnett and cried about it. I think there is something there is off since he's come to Philadelphia.
And to piggyback real quick on, I see the point though on what you're saying. I don't think it's for Peters on his impact on Dillard because Dillard's already had the learning curve. But for there were I think 3 offensive linemen, new rookies being brought in. Peters is going to help them too.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that I don't think Dillard loves the Peters move coming back, if I'm being honest. But like we've said on the previous episodes, if he's going to get butthurt over this type of signing, then I mean,
he's not the first one.
Right, Carson Wentz is the franchise.
And Jason Peters, then that's that's the least of the troubles then.
I mean, I do believe in Andre Dillard being the long-term left tackle of this team, though. No matter what, I don't know about it in 2020.
That's a big red flag on the scouting department if he doesn't. And
Joe Douglas. I mean,
Douglas too, but I think Roseman.
You're right. You're right. But I mean, I think this draft that just happened was completely high risk and segueing from
Stoutland will get him right.
I know. I think Dillard will be fine. It's just not 2020. I'm not super excited about him in 2020, but going forward, yes, I think he's the long-term left tackle of this team. He has the talent to do so. He's very athletic. He's incredibly athletic and agile left tackle. Anyways, let's move on. Finally, let's go on to. So on this previous episode, I discussed the most overrated player on the Eagles, and I chose Alshon Jeffrey because I just compared his production to Jordan Matthews. It's along the same lines. I understand the context of the situation, though. Alshon faces outside corners. Jordan Matthews mostly faced slot. Has a great opportunity in the slot in Chip Kelly's offense. My thing with Alshon, though, is if you just take out that 2017 season with the Super Bowl, everything since has been kind of somewhat of a disaster. I know in 2018 he had like 800-something yards, but he had a ton of drops. And then the key one in the divisional round. But a lot of people think he looks – I mean, he's going to be a part of the team in 2020. I don't think there's any way that they separate themselves from him now at this point. It's too late. I think they have to go ahead and accept that he's on the team in 2020. He's put out a lot of fit videos on Instagram, pictures and stuff like that. I think people are starting to think that he can have a redemption type year. To me, I think his play continues to trend downwards. The injuries continue to pile up. He's not Chicago Alshon anymore. I just think his career's coming to an end. I don't think he has. I don't want to say. I don't think he's just injury prone. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I don't think that's going to. I think it's just makes him wear down even more. So
the
fact that you got kickback on.
He won the Super Bowl, dude. It's the same thing. We'll get kickback when somebody. Leavon Nelson texted me and said, "Never talk about Derek Barnett on here anymore." And I'm like, because I called him an average player. Like, so it's hard for some people to accept, especially because they do stuff in the Super Bowl. Because without Alshon 2017, there's no Lombardi in Philadelphia. I completely understand that. I'm not an idiot. I know that.
Right.
But
yeah,
ever since
he didn't fill this role, but he's
ever
like you
since
said, a 30-year-old receiver having that foot injury and expecting anything from him is just those adjust your expectations.
Yeah, no, and that's what Johnny said the past episode was that he talked to that injury doc guy on Twitter, and that he has like a 23% chance of playing a full entire season coming back from a Liz Frank injury at this point in his career at age 30.
like long term.
Yeah, like he has a 23%.
From here on out.
Yeah, 23%.
He won't have one. Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's 30 years old, had a Liz Frank injury. It's not going to help. Thomas, what are your thoughts though? Are you feeling Alshon in 2020? What do you think? Do you think it's the end for him soon?
Alshon 2020 expectations are extremely low for me. He suffered the injury around, was it December 10th or something like mid-December. And usually with Liz Frank injuries, the good news about it is I think it's around 90 to 92% of all NFL players that get the injury return from the injury, like to ever play again. So that's good. But the problem with it is that the median time of recovery, now obviously that's not the mean, so there's a lot of variance to it, but the median time of it is around 11, 12 months. So at best, that will be around December next year, obviously, or around November next year. This year, there'll be. So the amount of games that he was going to, he's realistically is going to be able to play, like you said, he's 30, so he's probably in the higher end of the recovery scale, something that will be sort of similar to Jalen Mills, who was about a year as well. I don't expect him to play a lot of games, and obviously, if the whole situation with the receiver works out, and all these new guys they've brought in is going to work out, then they're not going to be pushing to get Alshon on the field. So, in best case scenario, we're not going to see a lot of him. Worst case scenario, all the new guys coming in are going to struggle right off the bat, and Alshon will be a savior. I just don't see the scenario happening. I think they're going to play 2020 out, like you said. They're not going to get rid of him now. If they do, and someone takes his contract, that's magical. I don't expect that. So, and I think they're going to quietly move on from him after the season.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it playing out. He's here, comes in December. They make him active. He probably plays like a 3% of the snaps in the game. I think he's just done as a player too, to be honest with you. But all good points there as well. I don't know why people are starting to think, because it's weird that they're so non-committal on like his injury timeline. Like it's weird that you don't get a definite answer on that. All of us have to like assume, because Thomas is right. That is the time frame for the injury. But I mean, Alshon was saying that he's going to be back right away. Like the Eagles aren't saying anything on it. Like how
bare
he just
minimum,
says
it's a 9-month injury. Bare minimum. It's a 9-month injury.
And then how he comes out in that press conference is, well, Alshon knows he has to prove himself this year. Like I'm like, wow, how do you just tell us when he's going to play? Like, what are you going to do? Is he going to get started on the PUP? Like, it's just, I don't know. There's just so many questions behind this stuff and behind his injury. It's weird. It's just a weird situation. I think the Alshon situation is weirder than T.O. because the T.O. thing got resolved right away. At least they weren't going to pay him. He wanted more money. They moved on. Alshon, they paid him, and then he goes out and bashes the quarterback behind his back, gets injured ever since the contract extension, even before the contract extension, and then his play has gone like on a deep downward slope during his Eagles tenure. It's a weird situation.
And even if he does step in, it's like
that Super Bowl high though. It's so because you can say that now in hindsight, giving him that extension is dumb. But they gave it off. They gave it to him off that Super Bowl high. But that extension is one of the Harris's worst contracts.
There's a real chance when Alshon comes back, he'll be Wentz's fourth favorite target.
Right.
If that, because what Johnny and I have been saying in the previous episodes is, and when you were on Tyler with us, with Mike K was on, it's not like Alshon fits Wentz. Like they're not perfect. They're not an ideal fit. Wentz isn't the type of quarterback to target a jump ball enthusiast. He likes guys to get separation and create space. That's where he wants to put the ball into because he has tight ball placement.
That's super depressing when you think of JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
I know. I was going to allude into that because I know that you're big on let's segue into that a little bit. I watched your film stuff on JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I think you did highlight some great routes that most of us weren't paying attention to because he obviously didn't get targeted. But I can't get over the fact that he looks like a stick in the mud when he runs routes. I know he's saying injuries now, but the Eagles were at such the bare minimum of wide receiver, and he was offering them literally nothing. That if he really was injured, why don't you just sit your second round pick that's injured so he can get healthy? He wasn't really contributing in the first place.
The thing with JJ and his routes last season, I think when you look at the film, you're going to see a lot of variance to it. Like you're going to see some routes that are really, really good. I'm not going to lie. There was a couple of routes and I said, this is not Arcega-Whiteside. Because when you're looking at him, he's playing with the cornerbacks on some snaps. And then you're going to look at 80% of the rest of the game. You go, what the hell was that? Like where he's running a slant and he's chopping his feet 10 times before cutting inside. Like who does that? And then later in the game, you're going to see another route where he's like, okay, we got something to work with. And you can't rely on that because when you put him on the field, you want to see some consistent good routes from him. But at least I came away with it that he knows some of the stuff and he got better because you were seeing things from him that you did not see when he was running routes at Stanford. So at least he improved in that area. So I'm gonna lean on that into the next season and gonna see what comes next before judging a lot more on him.
Right, it's too early, and I've always admitted that every time I make a comment on him that I am really judging him way too early. And I think Aaron Moorhead being there is just going to help a lot because I do actually trust in Aaron Moorhead as a wide receivers coach. I think they made the right hire for once at that spot. But my thing is, because a lot of the catches that he gets hailed for, I could go back to that Giants catch. Well, he was completely out of position, though. He was completely out of position. He's lucky that it was his long frame that caught that ball. Because if you zoom in on that and you pause it, he looks up and sees the ball in there and is completely shocked. And that's how his reaction is. Like this, because he's shocked that where the ball is, and his frame catches that. I'm talking about that third down catch again. Yeah, it was towards the sideline. Yes, he was supposed to do a fade route
where he got held.
Oh, he barely got held.
Oh,
he barely got held. No, he got grabbed. He got a little grab.
It was a beautiful adjustment. That was
also holding on the play. To be fair, Tyler's right.
It was very minimal though. It was that corner. If he can't beat, what was it, Haley? I think it was 20.
But he beat him though.
He did beat him. He did beat him. Yeah, no, I'm not saying he didn't beat him. I'm just saying that's a weak holding, man. Come on. That was weak. That's what all corners do is they pull like that every time.
He beat him, though, and he caught the ball.
He did beat him, and he did. But he looked like a fish out of the water when he caught that ball. Anyways, I know. I'm nitpicking. You're right. At least he caught the ball because a lot of the wide receivers in the Eagles don't. So, with me and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I don't think he fits Wentz either. I think that is also a thing because I think he is Alshon. I think he is I don't want to say Alshon's caliber, but he's the style of Alshon that he is too. So I'm worried about that. Dude, come on, Tom. You watch the film too. Tyler, you do too. Wouldn't does Wentz love throwing it into tight spaces where he needs? Yeah, the red zone. But I mean, you need to. That's such a short area. But I was
just going to say. I mean, I think the Eagles have versatility to, and maybe J-Jaw isn't in their 6 to 7 year plan, but with all this speed that they have, I mean, when you have Deshaun, Rager, Hightower, Watkins, if he makes the team, all of these guys are speed demons. But what are they going to do in the red zone? And when you can get to the red zone and have J-Jaw with Ertz, and I mean, you can have so many different.
You literally are saying what I said in previous episodes of why I think he's gonna be the next Riley Cooper.
Yeah,
that's literally exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going into 2020 expecting much from J-Jaw, but again, I'm always like, if a guy struggles in his rookie year, I just have a hard time unless just looks like absolute.
I'm gonna give Dillard and J-Jaw the same excuses I'm giving the rookies this year, because this pandemic really hurts fringe second-year players that need these reps. So right. I'm not gonna crucify J-Jaw if he doesn't improve, because I'm like, how do you expect him to improve? He didn't get the opportunities that you need. He didn't get the only work he's been able to go do is in Houston with Carson Wentz on an open field where he's not playing against DBs. Like, this isn't the reps that he needs. So I'm not expecting much, but I'm not going to go out there like everybody else does on Twitter and say, just cut him already. He's done.
I love the fact that they were like, okay, they didn't just say we're going to ignore the position. They went out and got Rager, and then they like tripled down, traded for Goodwin. So there's going to be that's what I'm most excited for.
That's why I thought Howie Roseman separated himself the most from this past draft outside of Miles Sanders, because he did take a left tackle still who has good potential. I think Prince Tegawaga has really good potential. I think if Andre Dillard doesn't work out, they got the prospect that they have now in case that happens. Because I think he's really that good.
I've been having my fingers crossed for training camp because I want to hear about the competition at receiver and think about the new cornerback group. So there should be some really good battles in the 1v1s, and I'm pumped.
I think Howie Roseman did a good job separating himself from what the Joe Douglas type picks a little bit, because if J-Dog doesn't work out now, they don't have to kill. They're not in a bad spot because of all the wide receivers they added. Because again, this is a 12 personnel offense. I think if you have speed on the outside in your 12 personnel offense, that's all you need.
You think they're still going to be dominate?
Yes, absolutely. Dallas Goedert is your second best receiver. You don't take him off the field. Absolutely. So they will definitely be dominant.
Dallas Goedert is not the second best receiver on this team.
Yes, he is.
Deshaun Jackson and Jalen Reagor are better receivers than Dallas Goedert.
Deshaun Jackson probably won't play that much. Jalen Reagor is a rookie. Dallas Goedert is.
Zach Ertz in there somewhere?
Zach Ertz number one. No, Zach Ertz obviously number one. Yeah, Ertz number one. Goedert's number two.
That's an absolutely bonkers thing to say, by the way. Dallas Goedert is not the second best receiver on this team.
How many games did Deshaun Jackson play last year?
Yeah, okay.
How many seasons did he play?
That doesn't happen.
But it could happen easily again. He's old.
I think they're going to do a lot of 12 personnel, because thinking of all the new stuff they'd have to implement with no training camp, I think they're going to go a lot of 12 personnel.
They can't shy away from that. They can't. Then you're taking Dallas Goedert off the field.
I do think that there's going to be a lot more 3 wide receiver sets with trying to stretch the field, though.
I agree with that. I think they're
going to mimic what the Chiefs do a lot.
So who would you play? Who would you put the X wide receiver if you're doing that now? Because I would put Zach Ertz there.
No, Deshaun Jackson.
At X?
Yes.
Who you're putting at Z, Rager, and then who you're putting at the slot, Goodwin? Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ertz is your only position guy out there?
It's not as if Deshaun Jackson could just be pressed. This whole X thing, like, you can't just go up and press.
I'm not worried about the role in X, because look, if they play 12 personnel, put Deshaun at X and put Rager at Z, that's fine with me. I'm just saying you need your possession guys to be on the field because you don't have possession guys.
Right, and Ertz will slide outside, but I mean, we had that conversation. The whole XYZ thing, it's just not.
I'm not getting lost in the Pacific. I'm not saying the player has to fit that position. I'm saying you need your best wide receivers on the field. They can to count on Deshaun Jackson in 2020. Wrong thing to do. To count on Jalen Reagor.
He's going into the season as the number one receiver.
Absolutely, he's their best wide receiver on their team. But to count on him over Dallas Goedert is wrong.
That's why they have depth. I think that's why they got depth, right?
Right, but my point is Dallas Goedert is their most proven receiver in 2020.
No, he's
outside
not.
of Zach Ertz.
No,
because you can't count on Deshaun Jackson.
You're so wrong on this. You are so wrong on this.
You can't count on Deshaun Jackson to play a full season. You can't. He could easily go down again. Easily. He could easily go down again. All right, let's see. Let's segue to the next topic right here. I love Deshaun Jackson. Don't get me wrong.
You know, you hate him too.
No, I'm projecting what he is in 2020 because of what he showed me last year. But anyways, who steps up and replaces Malcolm Jenkins' role in the defense this year, Thomas? I'm saying it's Will Parks. I know you're high on Will Parks too, but I think Will Parks will be the replacement. Jalen Mills is going to play a ton of snaps at safety no matter what, but I also think he's going to line up at corner as well, and maybe even nickel depending on matchup situations. What do you think? Who's your guy?
This is my position battle of the season, I think, because this is going to play on for the entire season. We talked a little bit about this before we started recording. They have so many options, and we're going to see each and every one of them throughout the season. Quan Wallace, if he is just half as good as the Eagles' Twitter is making him, and myself included, he's going to be a Hall of Famer in year one. and Will Parks, obviously, I love this guy. Like, I had no idea really who he was before Eagles signed him. I know I put out a tweet before we even hit free agency because I saw his name being brought up a lot. And I saw he had like a misdemeanor charge at some point. It's like, nope, don't need this guy. And then Zach Rosenblatt texted me and said, Thomas, shut up. You don't know this guy. Because he has been covering him and said, you need to look at the film on this guy. And I started looking at the film before Eagles signed him. So I had a ton of film prepared for him. And they signed him like the week after. And it was amazing. This guy plays all over the field. Like in 2018, he played like 200 plus snaps in the box. He played 200 snaps at free safety. He lined up at edge like 40 snaps rushing the passer, and did the same 2019 when he played a lot more slot corner though, simply just rotating around the defense. And that's the kind of guy that the Eagles need on the defense, or they want on the defense. These versatile pieces that they can move around, so they're not locked into a scenario where he plays box and then that's it. He can be moved around a lot, and that is such a valuable piece for the contract he was signed to that I'm super psyched about Will Parks. And he can deliver a hit as well, and so obviously a big fan of him. Sorry.
Yeah, because here's my thing with Will Parks. I studied him a lot too in Denver even before this because he's a jack of all trades, like you said, a player. He's Malcolm Jenkins. Honestly, he's Malcolm Jenkins without the opportunity though. Now he's finally coming into the opportunity because in Denver, they had Justin Simmons at safety, then they moved Kareem Jackson in 2019. And that's why they put Will Parks in the slot more because they wanted to move Kareem Jackson recorded as a strong safety. 2018, they had a whole different defense with Van Joseph. I thought he played really well in Van Joseph's system. I think you're going to see a little bit more of that with Marquise Manuel too. So I'm loving his transition to Philadelphia. And like we said off air, the Eagles have to replace 1,377 snaps at safety between Malcolm Jenkins and the third safety. There's no way that Will Parks, Jalen Mills, and Quan Wallace don't inherit all those snaps. Like everybody's going to play. So
and the versatility of them as well, because Jalen Mills is not just the guy who he's going to compete for that Malcolm Jenkins spot for sure. But if injuries occur, and we've seen too much of that in the past couple of years to not be ready for that, he can slide in to play that play the corner role as well, no matter where that would be, while still competing for the spot in the slot and box. And who knows how much they're going to go nickel, how much they're going to go dime this year. So they might have a lot of these guys in the field as well. Like Quan Wallace might be brought in more as an outside linebacker type than a box safety type, because the guy tackles so well, and so to not have him in the box area, whether box or the slot, there'll be a shame of resources of the guy, and to see what he actually is, because that's where he thrives. Now, Quan Wallace had his limitations as a deep safety, and he tackled well throughout his entire college career, but the last season was just a turning point for him as a coverage safety, a coverage corner. He lined up a lot of slot corner as well.
I'm going to say he was very good in the nickel at Clemson last year. A lot of PFF actually compared it to Brian Poole, who I think is a top 5 nickel corner in the NFL anyway. So it was interesting to see him there. But yeah, you're right. He can't play single high. I don't think any safety on their depth chart can besides Rodney McLeod. So you just see how much more McLeod is irreplaceable. But I'm totally agree with you. I think they're going to play majority dime coverage. I think it's going to be majority dime. And when you say that, there you go. There's the opportunity for Mills. There's the opportunity for Parsons. There's the opportunity for Wallace right then and there.
Right.
So
I want to get these guys to the field.
And not only that, I like how you hit the versatility because of the couple episodes that we discussed on here. Tyler brought it up, Johnny's brought it up, I brought it up after they did, though, because they actually pointed it out to me. And I actually thought, yeah, that sounds right. To me, I always thought Jalen Mills is way better around the line of scrimmage. I love the transition to safety. I think in college at LSU, he was doing a little bit of that while also covering the slot very well. But to me,
I'm excited to see Mills in the box. Like you said, we haven't seen it, but we have an idea. He's better in press. He's a good tackler.
Mm-hmm.
But we just haven't seen it been put together and have seen him play.
He has really good run recognition too. I like his run recognition. He could really step out a run real quick.
His best traits are his instincts. He's so good at reacting, and that's why he gets caught on double moves, is because he's always looking in the backfield.
But
if he could just play aggressive, that'll be a really good thing for his career.
Right, and I mean with the cornerback picture, the cornerback 2 picture being as it is, Sidney Jones being unproven, injuries piling up, Avonte Maddox, we don't know if he can last on the outside. They could also move Jalen Mills back there, and not only that, they don't have to move back there. It could be they're playing the Saints and they want to put Mills on Michael Thomas. Maybe I'm not saying to do that, but you get on my point.
Jeez,
they might see some. Yeah, I hope not either. But they might see like some physical wide receivers where they think we need to put Mills on him on the outside. That's my point. So they can do so much depending on matchups with their defensive backfield that they couldn't do before because so much money was allocated to Rodney McLeod's former contract and Malcolm Jenkins' former contract. Now it's all these guys they have that they can use at their disposal. And Marquise Manuel, I think, is a huge addition to the DB room. I like it. I think it's going to be a great safety. I'm not so down at the safety position as everybody else is because they got rid of Malcolm Jenkins.
Hell no.
I think it's more the person Malcolm Jenkins. I think it's more the
right.
He kind of became an icon when he was there. We
love him. He was a great player for us and everything. But I mean, I think last year was probably his worst year on the Eagles.
They put in a lot of guys that makes it exciting to see who replaces him, and that's what it's all about. Because if you just let him go and not really have an answer for it, that'll be the conversation will be a lot different.
True, absolutely right. I agree with that completely. But let's segue into who do we think the rookie would be that has the most impact? Thomas, I have a feeling I know your answer now.
Oh, you know my answer?
I don't know. Great. I might not. But it sounds like you're a Quan Wallace huge hype man, and think. So
I've been talking about this for a couple of times now, and what I think I came down to is who the most impactful rookie will be is you can put into two boxes. It's how ready they are to play in the NFL. So if you take a look at the guy like Davion Taylor, who didn't play at the highest level, he didn't play a lot of games. He's easily one of the players Eagles drafted that played the fewest snaps. Super raw guy, but the competition, which is the second part, what competition are they going to play against? Davion has a real chance to get significant playing time early, simply because Eagles are not really good at linebacker outside of TJ Edwards. You know what I'm saying? Got to get the TJ Edwards in there.
Oh, man. Johnny's going to be pissed when he hears this episode. He's becoming a huge Nate Gary stan now.
Right, and I don't get that. But I'm never gonna get that until I actually see Nate Gary play some real good football. Like he makes some flash plays, but other than that, he's just so fundamentally flawed. I can't watch it anymore. Have to
agree.
Davion it would be my sneaky pick. Now Jack Driscoll would be before Jason Peters was signed. Jack Driscoll would be one of the guys who would say the competition is not would not be as steep for him to win a starting job. And then the how ready they would be to play. I think Quan Wallace would be one of my favorite picks. He played really well, played at a high level, and played a lot of snaps and improved a lot. And again, the competition is tough, but they don't have a certified starter there. So I think it kind of depends how you're going to look at it. I think Davion is one of the guys who has the easiest chance of winning regular playing time, but Quan Wallace, I would say, would be one of my top picks of how ready he is to play.
I have absolutely no idea what to expect from Davion Taylor. because
Right? Isn't it's so exciting.
You really don't. Nobody
like
does.
he just his role at Colorado was like a hybrid nickel linebacker.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. A hybrid nickel.
You can't transfer
hybrid nickel linebacker. That's
Exactly.
the perfect way to say that.
It kind of plays into what we just had the conversation of at safety, though.
Exactly.
You know, you can have it's technically a dime package, but if you have him as one of your, I mean, how cool would that be to have him as your middle linebacker on like a third and like 15 or something?
That's the point because Johnny's not that high on him, and that's the point I made at Johnny. I was like, well, you're not high on him because you're thinking of the prototypical linebacker. I'm thinking of where the NFL is going at linebacker, and he has the instincts and the athleticism to translate where the NFL is going at linebacker. He kind of reminds me of Fred Warner. Sounds crazy, but he covers a lot of space, and he's very rangy. He's a very rangy athlete. He's just so raw in the terms of linebacking, and I'm not sure that this team can develop a linebacker, so that's the only thing.
Right. That's what scares me. Like, if he got drafted to, like, Pittsburgh or, like, Baltimore, I'd be like, dude, this guy's going to be so tight. But right. I don't know how he's going to play here. But what you were saying, Tom, dude, I just lost my train of thought. And you made a good point.
I can keep talking
Go
about
ahead.
it a little bit. You'll see.
No, that's what it was. I don't think there's going to be a huge role for Taylor in 2020. That's my only thing. I think it's going to be really hard for him to see I would love it because I'm excited about his potential. I just don't know. Like I said, it's just in 2020, it's going to be hard for him to shape out a role.
Exactly. Yeah, but really, what he is all about. Like, they drafted him because of the physical trait that he presents, and what he could be. And if he can show out a little bit early, with the chances that he gets, show some speed and show some that he can cover some ground quickly and deliver big hits. I mean, he's far and behind. He's far in showing out in terms of some of the other.
He covers a lot of space. He covers a lot of space.
What do you guys expect from Jannard Avery? Do you think they're going to have him off ball, or do you think they're going to have his hand in the ground?
I have no idea.
I think it's gonna be a mix of both because they had Derek Barnett off ball a couple times last year. He just sucked at it. So I think,
which is a waste to me. Like I just like Jannard Avery. It's another guy that they traded a 4th round pick for. Like, you better have some type of plan for him. And
I'm not worried. I'm not because I mean they take I count Jannard Avery as a 4th round pick defensive end that they do because they always go in the 4th round. They draft a defensive end, make him a complete project, and they can make something out of him. And it's finally worked with one of them now with Josh Sweat. I just think trust the process that they did with Josh Sweat is what they're going to do with Jannard Avery. And I think he will be fine. I think Jannard Avery has a lot of tools. I like him a lot. If you go back to watch his Cleveland film, not the year not the one they just traded him, the year before that though, he looked like a good pass rusher. He looked like he's going to be the complement guy to Myles Garrett. So I like Jannard Avery a lot. I just think there's a lot of hurdles that still got to go with him. I think this year, I don't want to say Joshua's 2019 season. I want to say maybe it's 2018 season. We see the type of role Jannard Avery has, but I don't know. Who knows if they even bring Vinny Curry back? Because right now the defensive end position, Jannard Avery is their 4th defensive end. So, and the 4th defensive end plays a lot in the system. So who knows?
I think, by the way, it's absolutely nuts that we talked about rookies with impact and we haven't mentioned Jalen Reagor.
Well, that's what I was about to do, though. Yeah, that was my pick.
Selection, right?
It is. That's what I was going to say. It's the cop-out selection, but that is my pick.
So basically, Jalen Reagor's role in the 2020 season and why he is absolutely going to be the rookie that has the most impact is that he is everything they needed in the 2019 season. When you watched every single game of that entire season, the only thing you can, just look back, watch 3 random games, and you think, where the hell is the speed? Like, there was no speed on the offense whatsoever after Deshaun Jackson went out. And that is exactly what Reagor brings. And when I watched Reagor and when I did all the film on him, I said, the routes, not that great, yada, yada. I put a lot of stock into it. But then really, you can make it as simple as he had the most plays of 15 yards of all wide receivers third most explosive plays of over 15 yards as a percentage. He had the 3rd most contested catches of college football players last season. He was put in such a bad situation at TCU, and he's so incredibly gifted as an athlete.
I can't imagine how frustrated he was. Watching his film was so frustrating because not only was the quarterback really bad, but the scheme. Like, they didn't move him around. Like, they just
Right.
put him on the outside, right side, and they were just like, just do your thing. Like, move him around, be creative with him. Like, by the way, Conor, I looked the last 7 seasons for Deshaun Jackson. He's averaged 13 games a year. So I'm going to go into this year expecting about 13 games. Because the last 7,
I'm hoping he plays
the last
12,
7,
but he
I can
slipped
only
on the
go off
field
what
in-
history is doing. And that's including the season with just 3 games.
He slipped on the field in Atlanta during pregame warmups and was out for the rest of the season. So I'm not.
Let's just hope this year, if he gets
I'm hoping
another
he does
sport
play a
hernia,
lot.
he gets surgery.
As a
Yeah.
fan, I want to see what Wentz's stats would be if he had a Rager and Deshaun for at least 13
Right.
games.
Oh, I would
13
too.
games of them two would be
Here's the thing
cool.
with Rager,
Air
why I think
yards.
he's going to make the most impact. I think it's going to be around week 6 is when he really hits his stride. Because once a playmaker, it doesn't matter. When you see a playmaker transition in the NFL, like Odell Beckham might go back to his rookie season because he had the injury in preseason where he started out slow. It took him around like week 4, I think, week 5 against Atlanta to really hit his stride. Because he scored 2 touchdowns and he lit it up the rest of the season after that. Once you can make plays and be a playmaker in the NFL and you find that like itch to make those plays, it's done.
Man.
Yeah, you're good after that. And Jalen Rager has that ability. He's a huge playmaker. Huge playmaker.
How cool would it be? How cool would it be if we're getting training reports or training camp like reports and we hear that Wentz is already throwing to Rager? Like,
well, here's one thing. You go into last season and the Eagles tied for second in Deshaun Jackson tied for second in 40-yard plus touchdowns last year, and he only played 1 game. Jalen Rager, but had the fastest play in college football. That would have been the fastest play in the NFL last year on his score for touchdown last year. So
this offense is going to be.
That's what I'm saying.
Out.
Even if Deshaun Jackson's not there, which I hope he is, obviously, I obviously want Deshaun Jackson to play a lot. That'd be great. If Jalen Rager hits that stride around week 4, week 5, week 6, watch out. Watch out. Because they had 2 40-yard bombs against Washington with Deshaun Jackson. That one game, once played with him, one game. The first game they ever played together. Once him and Jalen Rager hit that stride.
It's not only the speed of Rager that's so impressive. It like just looking at his mock draftable chart, it's just off. Like it's absurd. He's in the 60th percentile in weight, and yet he's in 98th percentile broad jump, 98th percentile vertical jump, and then you know how fast he is. Like on top of that, and when you're seeing the number of contested catches he made in the end zone for TCU, then you have so much more than just a speed guy.
You guys complain about the accuracy that he had to deal with. I think it was actually an added advantage for him in the NFL because if you go back to look at like when he first started playing for TCU up until last year, that guy learned how to make catches outside his frame at an absurd rate for his size. Yeah. I can't even believe it. When I see people compare him to Derek Mason or Steve Smith, I absolutely see that because those guys were smaller guys that can make incredible out of radius of their frame catches.
He has an alpha personality, and that's what
he does
want.
have an. Oh, dude, I love Jalen Rager. I was so high on Jalen Rager before.
He's gonna come in the NFL like, holy, these are so easy passes. Like, what is that? What's going on here?
And people complain about his drops because he had 7, I think, this past year, but the year prior he had 4 on 131 targets. So
I saw somebody
obviously got to be something there.
A 5'11" Julio Jones. I was like, that's a cool comparison.
That is. I don't mind it. That'd be awesome. The thing with, I think that a lot of people really harp on for drops, I think it's such an overrated stat, to be honest with you, because a lot of people don't take into the fact that quarterbacks have touch. There's always a different type of touch with quarterbacks. And Shane Robinson and Max Duggan, Shane Robinson would gift the ball to Jalen Rager. The ball would just float into his hands. Max Duggan would throw these missiles, like just throw these straight line bullets. I think that played more factor into the increase in drops than Jalen Rager's hands did.
Drops 100% play into QB. I don't know if you remember, but Sam Bradford, wherever he went, his receivers dropped
because he puts no touch on his passes.
Yes.
It's a huge thing that people miss when evaluating drops.
It is a real thing. Matt Stafford also has a tendency to,
he doesn't have touch on it. Oh, no. Matt Stafford doesn't have touch on his pass. It's a straight line bullet.
It plays into QB play for sure.
Just to put a little spice on it, so it doesn't get all Rager here. There were a couple of drops that he had in his 2019 season that were really, really bad,
100%.
and it is something that he needs to show is not going to carry over to the NFL when he actually has a quarterback that can throw the football. But I totally on board with you guys. I think he's got a lot of attributes that's going to work well in the NFL and early. He's one of the guys that I could see actually produce of the wide receivers. Like we were snubbed for last season with all the rookie wide receivers who just went off, say Terry McLaurin. And I think this year we could actually have a guy who transitions easier to the NFL than, say, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside would, because Rager is not going to need that much. He's not going to demand as much technician work in his routes as, say, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside would do, because he can straight up beat a slow corner with speed. And yeah,
right. If you have the assets Jalen Rager has, your transitions are automatically easier. Like, it's just the truth, because it's going to be hard to keep up with him speed wise. It's going to be hard to keep his double moves. I think are on the same line as Stephon Diggs. His double moves they throw corners off. He's going to be getting guys right out of their cleats.
Yeah, there's a chance. I mean, if things go right, that he'll be in the rookie of the year conversation. There's a chance.
I agree. No, I agree.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah,
there's definitely a chance. I don't know if it's gonna happen because of the high volume of like Zach Ertz and this offense and everybody else. But I agree with you though. I totally agree.
I mean,
he's a playmaker.
If Sean were to go down and he were to slide in, then I mean,
then absolutely, because then he's your number one wide receiver. Then because behind Deshaun Jackson, there's no one I would say I would trust more than, and it's. That's not a good thing, but there's nobody I would trust more than Jalen Rager. I know you guys might say Marquise Goodwin, but
John Hightower is another guy that I think could be a
John
contributor. But the problem I have with him is that when he went into the combine, he was listed as 6'1", 189, and at a certain point, you just get a little bit worried that even though they're fast, that they're going to get beat off their route a little bit to get enough missed timing to not be a contributor early, while a guy like Jalen Rager, who's listed at 5'11", around 210, and still running as fast as he is, like there's more mass to move with him, and you're not going to beat him off his route as easily. But in the long run, I think John Hightower is a guy to keep an eye on. Maybe not this year, but at least for the long run.
I agree with you. I was big on John Hightower before the draft too. He reminds me so much of John Brown. But I do agree though, he doesn't need to add his weight because John Brown's even like 10 pounds.
Was it Mike Kay who said that
Hightower? That was Jim Kepsky.
No. He said that Hightower could step in and be the guy that they thought Mac Hollins would be.
Oh yeah, Mike Kay did say that. Right. I agree with him with that. Yeah, I do agree with him with that. But Jimmy Kepsky actually compared him to Steve Breston, and I was like, I wish, I hope. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. All right. That'd be awesome. Long term, you have Jalen Rager and the guy who's playing like Steve Breston. That's cool with me, man. That's a good little tandem for once. But, Thomas, plug in the YouTube channel, man. We got to get everybody to go watch your film studies because they are actually very informative, and I love them.
It's been a long time since I posted things there. I can't wait for football to actually start so I can put some actual footage up there. But it is Breaking the Birds on YouTube. There's going to be some hopefully some more stuff coming up in the preseason, but once the season hits, that's going to be red hot.
I love it. And then Philly Sports Network, of course, you can find Thomas's work on there, his articles. Also, keep up the great work on Twitter, man. Thanks, man. You are every time I see you put a tweet out, it's like 300 retweets, 4,000 likes, like, and it's just
people have nothing to do right now, Connor, so they're just going to retweet everything that has something to do with football.
I like it though. You're putting out facts at least. Or you're educating the people that need to be educated. So I appreciate it, and that's why we had to have you on the pod to discuss these topics today.
Thanks, man. It's been a pleasure.
It has also been a pleasure to have you on Eagles Brawl. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to keep leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews. Tyler loves being on the show. You know, he's your mother's favorite co-host. Zach Ertz's mom loved that one.
That was nuts.
Zach Ertz's mom loved that. She retweeted everything you said. She retweeted the whole entire podcast episode.
Shouts to the support from the Ertz family.
I'm going to say, shout out to Zach Ertz's mom for supporting the show because Thomas brought it up earlier, and I had to bring it up again. The Zach Ertz episode actually really took off for us for some reason. I think people love Tyler's like religious and love for Zach Ertz, but Zach Ertz's mom retweeted it and it was over. And she was DMing the show. She was DMing Tyler. Like Oh man,
It was
what an
cool.
amazing!
I
That was
had to
awesome.
call my mom. I called my mom and let her know. I was like, man, this is nuts.
That is awesome. Just for saying some words over a microphone, really caught the attention of Zach Ertz's mom. I love it.
You slid into her DMs, didn't you? Say, hey, can
Who
we get
slid in his? She slid in his.
Yeah, exactly. Tyler has to get back on that and say, all right. But if you really want to show appreciation, you get Zach Ertz on our show.
Oh yeah, we gotta get Zach on the show. We're definitely
gotta get Zach on.
We have to talk about Zach Ertz for at least like 3 more episodes before we can ask her.
I can do that.
All right, we'll try to get Zach Ertz on the show. You heard it here. Eagles Brawl first. Tyler Stege's gonna try to get Zach Ertz on the show. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in.